How many GPSs are too many GPSs? Hello and welcome to Best Motorcycle Roads. I'm Tom.
And I'm Todd. Together we have over 65 years of combined motorcycling experience and 30 years of planning and riding motorcycle trips. We're here to share with you everything we've learned over those years.
Our goal at Best Motorcycle Roads is simple. Make your next motorcycle trip the best it can be. We'll dive into technology, planning, packing, the routes and other trips, and everything in between.
From essential prep to unforgettable routes, we've got you covered.
Before we kickstart today's journey, we ask you to sign up for our BMR Rider Alerts. It's our way of keeping you in the loop with the latest rides, tips, and stories. We promise no spam, only the essentials to enhance your motorcycle adventures. Join the BMR crew today. We'll put a link in the show notes. This segment about motorcycle gear reviews and tips we call the Toolkit. This is our segment about motorcycle gear review and tips. We call it the Toolkit. So Interceptor Moto had asked the questions about us and our technology that we've used, and so I was just trying to, I think, we don't have that much technology, but then we have I guess we do kind of have a lot of stuff. Mm-hmm. And so I guess the first one that I'd talk about is, the newer bikes are coming with these TPMS sensors, but you can add those on, and that is kind of a nice add-on if your bike doesn't have pressure sensors. I know that they have some that have a little screen that attaches. They have some that Bluetooth to your phone. Mm-hmm. Both of those have been options that people have used, if they don't have it built on the bike, which is nice. Not a super technological thing, but like just bringing like the battery pack has been something that I've used a lot, especially, as everyone hopefully knows by now, we love the headsets, and the headsets batteries will go bad if you're like traveling for a long day. So a lot of times when we stop, we'll plug those in and recharge those. So the phone and the headsets, they really benefit, I think, from that. Fuse blocks, which is kind of probably the opposite of, the battery charger is super interesting. Fuse blocks are a little hard. I'm a huge fan of adding on fuse blocks since I really like tank bags too. And a lot of times I'd electrify my tank bag. So whatever I can put in there, I can charge up. A lot of times I'd run a hot with the key and then a hot all the time. So when we get off the bike, if I wanted to charge something, that it would still be hot all the time. And sometimes I'd add a fuse block for that. The only gotcha these days is the CAN bus systems, which is super complicated to talk about. But basically, motorcycles and cars now are running basically a computer network at all times. And so the electrical system actually works on that too. So it sends many signals down the lines of the electro wires to kind of say, hey, turn the headlights on, hey, turn this on. And if you don't put a fuse block in that has a relay that isolates that power, it can actually mess up some things. And so that's one thing in kind of a modern day fuse block. When you add those on, you have to make sure you're doing it properly. So generally what you'd have to do is you run a wire from the battery, a ground and a hot, and then you run a relay that kind of just picks up on those signals ever so slightly that something's on. And that allows the system not to get confused and kind of mess up other things on the systems. But having that fuse block is handy then, because then you can plug in extra lights, cigarette lighters, chargers, heated gear, things in that nature. And there's a really great site that I recommend, electricalconnection.com, which is like the most generic name in the world. But these guys make really, really good stuff. Eastern Beaver is another great site, but they're kind of ADV specific. So fuse blocks are great, but you got to be careful, if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, and I'm not sure that I would attempt it myself, but is that something a DIYer could do?
I think
with
so.
Some instruction?
It's not hard. I mean, you're really just running a cable from the battery, a hot and a ground, and then you're finding one wire that's basically on when the bike is on, and you're kind of just using that as a signal, low wattage, so it doesn't. Yeah, I think it's very doable. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. A lot of times these fuse blocks are either put under the seat, or you run a wire up if you have some sort of a compartment. So they're not hard. It's just a little intimidating at first.
It's very intimidating, not a little, but I've really liked when you've done that.
Yeah.
You've done that on most of your bikes you've had.
I really have. And like for a while, I even had a switch in my tank bag that I'd switch back and forth if I wanted it to be on the bike power when it's on or off or otherwise, so that I could control it. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Anytime you're adding additional lights, charging, whatever, it's good to isolate those. It's good to put them on a fuse. You just want to be safe with it. And that's what it does when you have a fuse block.
Gotcha.
Yep. And then the kind of fourth thing I think for today, just talking about the technology, is just all the cameras. I mean, in the last 3 years, the camera technology between GoPro and Insta360s just kind of gone off the rails. I mean, we've talked about it in previous episodes, but like, the one where it looks like the camera's floating, that's that Insta360. And I think it's overcompensating. It's taking like I'm not exactly sure. I'm guessing 2 lenses and covering up the stick part. So it just looks like, the first time I saw it, I'm like, this is amazing. It's like a drone or what is
like
this?
a drone follower.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
But I think they're just cheating a little bit with like the
overlapping video.
That's what I think.
Yeah. Okay.
But I'm a huge fan of onboard cameras. I mean, they're kind of a pain in one sense, like with the GoPro that we've been experimenting with. Like I was running that GoPro 12 at 5.2K. I mean, I think the file sizes were like 11 gig.
Yeah.
We haven't even been able to kind of render those yet, but a lot of people are buying, and they're really reasonably priced, $130 to $200 permanent mount cameras that are on there. They're HD pics. They take video all the time, and then if you push the button, they'll like save it a separate one. So you have the whole video the whole time. Then anytime you push the button, it takes an actual picture and a video, like 10 seconds of video. Man, it changes everything about like things.
Yeah, so this is really a big upgrade then from like a standard dash cam that will like continually recycle video after 30 days or whatever.
It does that. So these will recycle. So it's like first in, first out. But like a 32 gig chip, when you're doing like a 1040, like an HD video, I mean, you're talking about like 30 hours of video. So like if you put a new chip in every day, you're not writing for 30 hours a lot of times. So yeah, you'd be okay. And it's not quite, it's not it's not 4K. It's not, and there's some of those are coming on the market, but it's just kind of like that basic view. And I think it works pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah, I like the idea of having that as a dash cam just for safety as well. But
yeah, for sure.
But now, like you said, the resolution is so high that you can use it for all kinds of stuff. Yeah.
Yep.
RideWise is the section we focus on planning and safety tips. So in today's RideWise, I want to talk a little bit about cargo weight. We've had a couple of questions about how much weight can I actually pack on my bike, and it, and that depends on how many riders. If it's a single rider or if you're going to go 2 up. But in general, weight limits for most bikes is anywhere between 350 and 450 pounds. However, you need to actually look at the book to determine. And you start by taking the gross vehicle weight of the bike, and that will be like the maximum. And then you subtract out the actual weight of the wet weight or the curb weight of the bike. Right. So, for example, if the gross vehicle weight is 1,000 pounds, but the curb weight, the wet weight, that's with the fuel and all the, fuel, I want to say liquids.
It is. I mean, gas, water,
oil and all that. Say that's 600 pounds. So you have a 400 pound capacity there for your passenger or cargo. That's left over, and that's for you as well. So I was looking at my Honda Goldwing, for instance. My curb weight is 893 pounds. That's full of fuel and fluids. The gross vehicle weight is 1,310 pounds. So that gives me like 417 pounds of leeway there for myself, my passenger, cargo, accessories, and then it also gives me some weights for each of the compartments. Like in the Goldwing, it says 20 pounds you can put in your trunk, 20 pounds in each of the 2 saddlebags, each fairing pocket, 4.5 pounds. I don't know what would weigh that, lead, I suppose, but or the trunk side pockets, 1 pound. So cargo, it's saying 71 pounds, but really, if you just do your calculation, that gross vehicle weight minus the curb weight, that's what you have to work with, and you really don't want to go over that. Some people do.
I think people do all the time.
All
like
the
if you're
time.
2 up, you're definitely over that.
Especially if
There's
you're
no
2
way.
up. Yeah.
I mean, by the time you get any packaging, I mean, that means both riders are less than 160,
Right.
180
Yeah.
to get enough weight for the goods. I don't
Right.
know.
And then when there's 2 of you on it, you're carrying a lot more stuff usually. I mean, especially with the
Right.
same amount of trip. I mean, if you're going 4 or 5 days.
So you've got all the weight, but then also I guess you also have the spring load, right? Like so you'd want to, like your bike, I know you can adjust it on the. Well, I think you have to stop, but it'll adjust.
You do, yeah.
The bike that I'm riding has an aftermarket suspension, so you have to actually take the seat off to change it. But similarly, I think that's the other piece of the puzzle. And then back to our TPMS sensors, right? Like making sure that you have maximum air pressure, I think, when you're at maximum weight, just so those tires hang in there.
Yeah, and then, time of the year too. If you're in the middle of summer, hot,
Right.
and you're out on the highway and it's 90 degrees, your pressure is going to start going up. So it's important that you take a look at that as well and kind of keep an eye on that.
Yeah, that's really important too, because you're right. I mean, like, I know that like tire pressures can adjust 7 degrees, as they go. So
Yeah.
yeah. The next segment is what we call the mile marker. It's our story segment. This is a story segment we call the mile marker, and it's done with like spotlights today. Like, one time we record in the daylight, Todd. I tell you, usually we're out here at like midnight doing
We're getting
this.
blasted by the light.
Yeah, hopefully that is interesting. So, I feel like I look at you and you're like an angel, Todd.
I am.
So back to kind of tying in this technology on trips. We did talk a little bit about the fuse blocks, and again, that's been helpful for me to keep things powered. I really like the convenience factor of it. As far as fuse blocks go outside of the charging the headsets, I don't know that it's changed like any of the actual trips that we've had. But I can tell you, like, changing over from GPS from maps for me has been great.
When you say from maps,
So literal
paper maps.
Well, yeah.
Right? Yeah.
So like how when we first started writing, and you'll see it. We've seen it on the forums and things. People still like, what's the best thing to plan a trip? Maps, paper. I'm not going for
maps,
paper,
Yeah.
And I get it. For me, it was a total game changer though, because we all were running tank bags or some sort of a map holder at the time. And I'm going to be honest, like, I think it's completely dangerous to be looking at your paper maps
Yeah.
while you're driving. Especially the roads that we were riding, and I mean, like, we weren't used to GPSs, so you're used to reading a map, which is different than, there's no blue dot on the map that tells you where you are on it.
Right.
There's no, it doesn't orient based on the direction that you travel. And so, I mean, there's definitely I love looking at maps, but also like a GPS to me was a complete and utter better thing. Even if you don't go in and plan your whole entire route, for me, looking at that next corner that's coming up, some of these things.
How far the corner is.
Yeah. Turkall he likes his GPS, but he doesn't like to go in and pre-program everything. So what he would do is he'll just take a plain old 3x5 recipe card and he'll plan his route out, and then he'll write down each like waypoint. And then when he gets to that waypoint, he'll put it in the GPS, and then he stops, puts the next one in. So I mean, you don't have to go crazy about overly planning and figuring out how to load things. You can go simple, but I'm telling you, like having that like kind of in your peripheral as you're driving, I don't know why you'd want to not do it, especially when you spend all this money for a motorcycle and you're going on these trips. Why you wouldn't want to have some sort of GPS is beyond me. And I still love looking at all the maps to plan it out. But boy, I look at some of the rides that we've ridden. We'd miss so many roads if we didn't do it that way. Because that's how we find those great roads. We talk about that Kentucky ride. Just some of the cool roads we've been on. It's been wonderful. And like my biggest fear now is that I forget which the good ones are.
Right.
I want to be better about documenting the day we get done, so we don't forget those things. So but
and if you do have the route saved in your GPS, just being able to hear the warning coming up. In 2 miles, you're going to make a right.
Exactly.
Just So much nicer.
Anyway, hold each other accountable
Safer.
in that same sense, not in a negative way, but it'd be like, hey, I know that when I'm leading, I'll be like, okay, we're gonna turn left in a mile, so be ready. Just because it's harder, when you're looking at that paper map, you're guessing, and you can get close, but
Right. Yeah, nothing worse than having someone in the front of your group suddenly slam on the brakes and try and make a
hard
left turn,
left,
and
yeah, it
here
happens.
comes everybody. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, we talked a little bit about adding the cameras. Man, I've loved that part of it. Before I had the cameras mounted to the bike, I would set a GoPro up, and I always got fussy about the video, so I'd do take a picture every 60 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
And some of my favorite pictures have been taken that were what I call automatic pics.
Mm-hmm.
I have a great one. It's posted in our living room of me sitting on the old Goldwing in French Lick. And there's a picture of French Lick sign in the back. It's just a cool picture. I mean, just works. So,
yeah.
And then lastly, we've talked over the times about 2 or 3 times we've had flat tires. And I just think of TPMS. If they'd have had those on there, it's $40, purchase that you can add on and see that. Boy, we've luckily not had any accidents, but $40 is definitely worth preventing an accident.
Yeah, for sure.
So I don't know. We'll keep brainstorming more ideas as we go and think about integrating some of our technology ideas in here. But these have been the ones for me that have changed kind of our writing.
Well, and I'm definitely going to get some TPMS monitors.
Yeah.
I haven't used them yet, but I certainly don't like to get down on the ground and try and check that pressure. It's just getting harder and harder every year to kneel on the ground. So
we're going to definitely have to do some goat yoga before we go next time.
All right.
The podcast can be found on bestmotorcycleroads.com/podcast. All the information you need will be there, but you can subscribe on Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple, Pocket Casts, and YouTube.
This is the interactive segment. We will be looking for input from you. We want you to send us your questions and suggestions for roads, topics, and anything else you have on your mind. Today's roadside Q&A comes from Mark. Mark is going on a long-distance trip and wanted to know what we do about roadside assistance. That's a great question, and that hasn't come up before.
I'd like to know that. No, what do we do?
Well, we've had to use it.
It just made me think of something. I'll tell you in a minute.
Check with your insurance company. If you have motorcycle insurance,
Right.
hopefully, of course, they usually offer roadside assistance, towing, and what that means is they'll bring a flatbed out. If you're broken down somewhere, and they'll winch your motorcycle right up onto a flatbed, and they have all the tools to do that, and the straps, and they ratchet it all down. So check with your own insurance company on that. And it's so cheap to add that on. It doesn't cost hardly anything, just less than $10 probably for the whole year. But there's also AAA. You can get AAA memberships.
AAA is not that expensive.
Yeah, I haven't owned that for a long time. Do you?
Yeah, we have it because we have some kids, and we just used it actually recently. He couldn't find his jack, and they came out and changed his tire, and then he moved on and got some things fixed.
Yeah.
It's not very much for a year.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of, if you look it up, there's a lot of other kind of benefits they give you too. So
Yeah, that's a good one. Look into
like
that.
paper maps, I think.
AAA probably would. Triptychs, right?
Yeah,
is
right.
that AAA? USAA and Harley, they offer roadside assistance. The American Motorcycle Association, Motorcyclist Association, they offer some memberships that include roadside assistance. Someone mentioned Good Sam RV and Travel Club membership. I'm not familiar with that one, but
Especially if you're camping, I suppose, because I know that's part of the
Yes,
Good Sam
it
is
is.
camping. Yeah.
yeah. But any Progressive and State Farm, all of those will offer some sort of roadside assistance. And then there's the Harley Owners Group, HOG. They offer that sort of coverage.
Part of their deal.
Yep, BMW has MOA or BMWST.com.
They probably won't even let you tow a BMW unless it's BMW MOA. I'm sorry, that's a joke. That's the joke. You can't do anything to that bike without asking Germany first.
I see. So anyway, check into all of those, but definitely get yourself covered on some roadside assistance. We've had to use it.
Right. for sure. And ask Brad next time about Daryl too. He doesn't like to talk about it, but when we went to the Tail of Dragon, his battery died one time when we were sitting there trying to figure out where to go. I went to get jumper cables, and before I got back, then literally this guy named Daryl stopped to help him. So he had Daryl. So, you might just find Daryl. Yeah, he jump-started him and got him going.
Gotcha.
Now it's time for the last mile. It's kind of our way to close out the episode with our reflection. So, Todd, what for you struck a chord?
Well, the TPMS sensors.
It is wireless. That's not striking a chord.
Well, it's wireless, and you said it's like $40, and I'm thinking to myself, why haven't I done this? I mean, we've had so many tire issues, along the way, and I don't have these yet, and why not? So I'm going to add those.
Yeah,
that's on my list, and I really like the idea of having, a dash cam or a camera mounted to the bike, just for, not only capturing great views and accidentally capturing something cool, but just for safety.
So they can play the video at the time of your death?
That's right. That's right. As I'm sliding down the side of the highway. No. Yeah, I really like that. I'm going to do that.
Cool. For me, I guess I would say the movement to GPSs, and that's kind of where the teaser plays in. I remember one trip, I had I used to mount an old Garmin, and then I had the new Garmin, and I liked the old Garmin for like the telemetrics, all that stuff, and then I had the new Garmin for the maps, and then we'd have our phone, so we'd have up to 4, GPSs on board at a given time, and it's funny how you guys make fun of me for all that, and then you start to add them right afterwards. So.
Oh yeah.
But no, so that's kind of. I had 3 GPSs on a Goldwing, a 78 Goldwing, so more technology and computing power than they landed the moon lander, but yet, no computer on the bike. So, but
that's
no,
right.
I just love going and riding. I like to play with the tech and integrate it with what we're doing. So
yeah, and I think the last time we took a trip, or maybe the last couple times, I've mounted my 10.5-inch tablet.
I think that's where things got crazy. I actually bought a Surface Go and I had it mounted.
I was watching TV,
but it never I didn't realize the Google Maps wouldn't work on like a Windows tablet.
Oh, I didn't know that.
No, it was because it didn't have
it's not the Android, right?
Well, it didn't have any cellular connection.
Right.
There was no way for it to
know.
Yeah. So I thought it would work without it. Because I was trying to even use my
hotspot or something.
Doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
No, it doesn't navigate.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't have guessed.
If this episode revved up your day, don't keep it to yourself. Like, subscribe, and share it with your crew. We're all about the thrill of the ride and the bond it creates.
Keep the spirit of adventure alive, and remember, bikes, friends, and endless roads. The stories ride forever. Take care.